Just say the Abraham Accords. I mean, why don't you use that phrase? And he said, well, what do you mean? I mean, I'm referring to them as normalization agreements. That's what they were. I mean, they played this silly game of cat and mouse. They wouldn't even use the words Abraham Accords because, frankly, it's a very powerful brand for these agreements.
Yeah, well, that's for sure. It's a great phrase. It's great. It's a great title. Who came up with that, by the way?
So that's a great story. So, we were about to go live just on August 13th. Again, there's 5 or 6 of us who know about this. We're about to go live with a telephone call between Trump and the head of UAE and the head of Israel. And it's like 10 minutes before we go live. And a guy comes running in. He's a General Miguel Correa, who worked with us on this. He's a 2-star general. He came running in and said, we need a name. And I said, why do you need a name? And he said, well, these agreements all have names, Oslo Accords, Camp David Accords. And I said to him, do you have any ideas? And he said, how about the Abraham Accords? Abraham was the father of the Jewish faith, the Muslim faith, the Christian faith. I said, wow, that's terrific. So we quickly called up the Israelis and the Emiratis, and they signed off on it. And that's how we got the name.
Yeah, well, getting the name right is really important. And so that was a very wise move on his part.
Yes.
So I should mention, too, to everyone that you wrote a book about this.
Yes.
Sledgehammer. What's the full name of the book?
Sledgehammer, How Breaking with the Past Brought Peace to the Middle East.
And when was that published?
It came out a little over 5 months ago, on February 8th of this year. It had the biggest week of any book on Israel in the last 10 years, is what the publishers report. It's thank God been a very successful book.
Well, that's good. Have any of the intelligentsia, so to speak, which is a hated name as far as I'm concerned at the moment, has anybody reviewed it seriously? And how has it been received?
It's been received well. It didn't get, it wasn't reviewed by, the New York Times or some of those.
Yes, well, why would it be?
Right.
It's just about peace in the Middle East. Why would you review a book about that by one of the authors of the Accord?
It was also, a book, I think, about the kind of the inner fortitude it took to fight the conventional wisdom, the headwinds, if you will, of the State Department and the Defense Department, and how important it was that I had the support of the president, because whether it was moving the embassy or recognizing sovereignty over the Golan Heights or the peace plan, or changing our view on the legality of settlements in the West Bank. I mean, we did all these different things, and every one of them was opposed by numerous government agencies. So it really was about the runway, the support, the confidence I was given by the president, because at the end of the day, if you have the president's support, you don't need the support of any of these agencies. It's only when the president, goes on to some other thing, which he considers more important, that you're stuck in the morass of the agency. Well, the president gave me huge amounts of authority and runway, and that, I think, was the key to a lot of the success.
Mm-hmm. So he gave you some autonomy and some trust. And so, well, kudos to you, Jared Kushner and Jason Greenblatt. Anybody else you want to include in that inner circle on the American side who was key to the success of this? You did mention Mike Pence. Anybody else you thought was, I know there's a huge team, but...
Well, it actually wasn't a huge team. I mean, Mike Pompeo was essential, because at the end of the day, Jared and I, we have a relationship with the president. We have authority, but we're not the Secretary of State. We're not in charge of the U.S. foreign policy. So we needed Mike to really jump in and engage and provide the types of assurances that, as much as we were trusted, I mean, the right messaging needed to come from the State Department. We had a young guy, Avi Berkowitz, who worked for Jared, who was on the phone day and night, working the lower level relationships, and was very helpful. And that's about it. I mean, that's about it. It was a relatively small group of people that worked, really day and night, especially towards the end of the Trump administration, to getting this done.
Well, thank you to all of them, that's for sure, from everybody in the world who has any sense, I would say. So let me just summarize what we discussed, and then maybe you can add a few additional comments if you'd like. The accords involve, at minimum, declaration of mutual peace, recognition of mutual sovereignty, the establishment of a framework of cooperation in principle and reality, including the exchange and establishment of embassies, and also cultural cooperation that could bring the benefits of mutual trade to those countries. It's a major accomplishment. It looks expandable, perhaps to countries like Oman, Indonesia, and Saudi Arabia, especially on the Sunni side. And it's an amazing achievement. And I would like to shame the Nobel Prize Committee for making a tremendous error in failing to note with the prize that should have been awarded for what appears to me a signal accomplishment of the first part of this new millennium.
You know, my job was very much on the U.S.-Israel side of the relationship. I think we proved something which I fear that the kind of the left-wing elites are sliding back on. But what we proved, and I said it at the beginning, and President Trump said it at the beginning, is that Israel really is a solution in the Middle East, not a problem. And, for 70 years, the State Department viewed Israel as a problem to be managed, not as an opportunity to be harnessed. And I think we're sliding back in that direction right now, with the last few months of U.S. policy. But, when we advanced all these extraordinary initiatives on behalf of our ally, our cherished ally, the State of Israel, not only did they not bring violence, but they brought peace. And I think that message is one that we can scale and extrapolate going forward, and I really hope we do.
Well, let's say amen to that, and all pray that this does move forward as it should, and that wise heads prevail outside of the domain of narrow politicking and partisan advantage. So I'm going to follow up this conversation for those of you who are listening. I do a behind-the-scenes 30-minute interview with everybody I talk to now on the Daily Wire Plus platform, and I'm going to talk to Ambassador Friedman in a more personal sense, I would say, and detail out the development of his career across the span of his life, insofar as we can manage that in 30 minutes. I like to give people some insight into how people who have accomplished signal achievements have come to that position. Hello, everyone. I would encourage you to continue listening to my conversation with my guest on dailywireplus.com.